So here we go again with another round of making the purchase, where I get to help you in deciding whether or not to buy the previous event's top reward vehicle. And this time around, it's for the QN506, or as I would like to call it, Mao's little Terminator. A viewer of mine did pitch that idea to me a while ago, and I just had to run with it. It sounded perfect at the time, and in some ways, still is. But before we go ahead and get started, I'd like to remind everyone that in this video, everything I'll be talking about will be based entirely off my own opinions and experiences, so yours may differ from my own, and that's entirely fine. This vehicle is not for everyone, and I will do my best to outline the pros and the cons of buying this particular vehicle. So with that being said, let's begin. To those who are unfamiliar with this vehicle, you're either watching this from the future or you have been entirely under a rock over the last several weeks. And by that, I mean you've been avoiding War Thunder like the plague, because let's be honest here, this vehicle has been a very hot topic that has only recently simmered down. Now, this is a battle rating 9.7, at least from the time you're watching this video, Chinese light tank that was featured as one of the top reward vehicles for the Repair Factory crafting events. It features the game's very first fire and forget system for ground vehicles, and it doesn't perform as bad either. Seeing that it acts pretty much like the PARS missiles on the UHT, albeit the overall performance is fairly mediocre when it comes to other existing more direct fire ATGMs. If you're familiar with the UHT, then you'd understand. It also carries a single belt of APFSDs for its 30mm gun, along with a second belt of HE and a complementary load of guided rockets, but with limited capabilities. The gun also features an optical tracking system to fight against low-flying aircraft and can be very handy at times. Aside from that, this vehicle is what you would expect from a Chinese design. It has almost no gun depression, the optics are fine, reverse rate is limited at best, and overall mobility is as you would expect from a Type 59 chassis. I believe it's an updated Type 59, I could be entirely wrong, and same goes for the level of protection, at least for its BR. So now that you're up to speed on what this vehicle is, let's get to the more personal bits. Is this vehicle worth your pretty penny? And by pretty penny, I mean 55 Gaijin coin from the time that you are watching this video or I'm recording this segment. The short answer is no, not really, at least not from the performance perspective. Now, assuming you haven't clicked off the video after hearing this bit, allow me to explain. The no part stems from the overall performance of this vehicle when you compare it to other somewhat similar systems, such as the BMP-2M, the Bradley, maybe even the Dardo, but maybe not the Puma unless Gaijin decides to give it its own ATGM, but more details about that in a later video. The QN506 is a slow, lumbering tower of a target. Maybe not as much as the Bradley, but it's still a giant target for most. The 30mm has a low fire rate compared to, say, the BMP-2M, and with only 100 rounds, not counting the HE belt, it makes for a fairly difficult platform to use, and even more so with its horrendous gun depression. Of course, much of that is offset by its fire and forget ATGM, which can penetrate up to 1,000mm of armor, and it's also tandem. And seeing that it fires from the top-down perspective, well, depending on how close you are to the target, it can definitely get the job done at times. But the downside is you only get 4, and you can only launch the missile when you have a solid lock on a mostly exposed target. The guided secondary ATGMs, though, can make up for the rest, but even then, the rockets themselves are very limited. 200mm of base penetration and a little overpressure effect, at least that's how it feels based on my own experiences. And let's not forget ammo detonation. Oh yeah, the exposed rockets and missiles will pop, and sometimes you'll pop along with it. And that's really it for when it comes to the pure negatives of the vehicle itself. I mean, the list is fairly small for the most part, but we'll get more into it a little bit later in the video. And now for the bugs. I have no idea what Gaijin did, but they broke the commander's optic. They reinforced it, making it a little bit more difficult to shoot out with regular MGs, but in doing so, they completely broke the ability to even use it, effectively taking away one of the big advantages of using this vehicle, which is using the commander sight to operate the weapons to, say, fire over objects and hills from a turret down position, and they have yet to fix it. And now for the positive bits. This is by far one of the most unique systems in the game. It features the very first fire and forget missile for ground vehicles. I get it, the UHD did it first, but this one is the first to do it for ground combat direct, making it a truly unique platform compared to the previous event's rewards, if that made sense. Though the Object 279 is still by far one of my personal favorites to this day. And the fire and forget missiles hit incredibly hard, as already mentioned. Once they lock onto a target at distance, they do a fairly good job at maintaining track of the vehicle, and to make things even better, the missiles can also effectively track aircraft. This thing is an absolute menace against helicopters. You have to try it. It's a lot of fun. And it can hit them at almost any distance, as it has a 20-kilometer engagement distance. That's nuts, but the downside is it's very slow. It only travels at around 205 meters a second, so don't go trying to take down jets with this unless you want to possibly waste a missile. But aside from that, it has a Gen 2, I think, thermal sight for the gunner and the commander. It might be Gen 3s, I could be entirely wrong. And well, that's really it, I think. Though I genuinely believe the missiles are more than enough of a reason to justify this vehicle, but I'll save that bit for, again, a later part of the video. Now let's speculate just a little bit. The vehicle does feature a hidden ability. It has the power to deploy loitering munitions, which has already been teased in some of the data mines, which means that this thing can likely feature what appears to be a very powerful mechanic, that is suicide drones. Imagine that in the game. Campers and helicopters would be in for a rough ride. I mean, if you can already take a little drone and run into a helicopter's blades and kill the damn thing, like what happened to me at some points, this thing can likely change the dynamic of high tier in War Thunder. Though, I'll be honest, that might be a bit of a stretch, but it is in the realm of possibilities. Aside from that, I can't really see anything else being added that would otherwise make this thing an efficient vehicle outside of maybe reducing the BR for it, just a little bit. So with everything being said, I wouldn't recommend a purchase as it currently stands, but in the near future, it just might be worth it. But for the full price right now of 55 Gaijin coin with no premium benefits or any pack features or anything else to really make this thing worth it, it's kind of a hard sell, at least again for the time being. But as a collector's item, absolutely. Could even make a good lineup vehicle as a mid to late game deploy, or if you're wanting to play strictly support for the team, then that works too. I mean, you have so much you can do with this, right? You can scout things, you can repair things quickly. I think more so than you could with a regular MBT. But let's be honest here, this thing is by far the most unique platform that can be entirely justified as it's, well, at the current going rates. But ideally, I would only recommend this to those who are simply wanting to collect every vehicle they can get. And if I'm honest, that's what I do in these events. I just play it so that I can collect it, and there's a possibility that I will never touch it again after that. And that's really it. Not much else for me to say other than do whatever you feel is right. If you have the expendable income, then by all means, pick this bad boy up and give it a couple of games to get a feel for it. Worst that can happen is you get your butt kicked, but at the very least, you have an incredibly unique light tank that will only get more expensive to get as time goes on, or unless Gaijin releases it to the loot crates. Then there's that as well. But what do you think about the QN506? Was it worth the time and effort to grind? Does it hold its value well, or is it a complete waste of time with no benefit to you as a player? Let me know down in the comment section. And as always, I'll do my best to chime in my own 2 cents. You know, the funny part about this entire video is that I wrote a script for all of it, and I want to know what you guys think about this. Should I keep it more fluid, more natural, or should I spend the time to actually do that and make things sound a little bit more professional? I have no idea. Let me know in the comment sections while you're down there. And also, while you're swinging on down, don't forget to check out the description link if you guys want to support me as a creator. Use that 3% discount. It benefits me a lot. The sales are currently coming on very soon. It won't add an extra 3%, but if you use it, I still see 3%, and you still get the game, well, the game decal. Excuse me, rephrase. You get my decal. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, enjoying the bit of gameplay in the background, which is some of my best games I had in this thing, oddly enough. And I will see you not only in the next video or even those streams, which, by the way, you should check out here on YouTube as well as over on Twitch, link description below. And I will see you not only in the next video or even the streams, but maybe even in War Thunder itself, just maybe not on the 906. But who knows? I'll see you next time.